Hi everyone, welcome. What I've got laid out here is the meal plan for today's check-in with the European night crawlers, and it doesn't even end there because I've also got my leaf collection in this box here. And that's what we actually used as a top coating after we finished our check-in last time. But this assortment of foods is a little departure from what you normally see here because, like, for example, here's some bagel. I broke it in 4 pieces. Hardly was able to cut it with a sharp knife or even break it by hand. It was so firm already. Old bagel, probably a month old already. Soaking in water, and it's at this point totally soaked through because otherwise it would probably just sit there in the worm bin idle. Here we've got some leftovers. All the yummy fried chicken that went with this potato was consumed, the last of it yesterday, and perhaps the estimation on how much potato to prepare for that meal was a bit off. So there's a whole bunch of leftover cooked potato, and here's some coffee. And there's a theme, which was a little bit unintentional, but, oh, this is my grit. But the theme that I've noticed here, and I figured I'd just point it out, was the fact that nothing here is frozen, because almost everything in my worm bins gets frozen, especially potato. Potato, if you don't freeze it before you put it into your worm bin, chances are it's going to start growing, and it'll never even begin the breakdown process, because it'll just be sort of a growing organism at that point. So, I think last time too we left ourselves a nice little top dressing like this, which we proceeded to blend in down into the bedding to make room for a nice fresh application of this stuff. So I think we'll do the same here today. What do we got here? It's all sort of blending together, but I think what's beginning to appear here is some newspaper, which was probably still holding together as a single sheet of paper up until I tore it into 3. And you know what? I believe that officially enables us to now reclassify that piece of newspaper as no longer a top covering, but instead we'll include it as bedding down in the feeding zone or zones. So over in my mixed red worm bin, if you're a regular here, you'll know that I've got a little bit off. I don't know if we're off is the right way to think about it, but it's definitely sidestepping the norm, if you want to consider it that way. Because I typically just open a trench down the middle, put the food in for the worms, and have a nice day. Sometimes I'll move the feeding locations, you know, from side to side, around the corners. Look at that. That piece of newspaper's got more tears in it than the other one, but it is still one solid, continuous piece of paper. But I don't think that's going to save it from being fed to the worms at this point and included in the feeding. So gosh, I was trying so hard to remember the train of thought that I had there, but I totally spaced out. I feel like stopping the video and playing it back for myself. But it'll come back to me, I believe. Because now I guess I'm just a little distracted because I feel like I've said so many things about the system, but hardly even scratched the surface. We haven't even talked about its age. 150 days old today. And got a little novelty item going on in here for about the past month. I think 32 days since we put a wool sweater in here. And one of my viewers even said, "Hey, why do you clear off what's above the action that's happening above the sweater? You're basically removing them from where you want them, which is above the wool sweater, and hopefully working on it and nibbling on it." But you know, I guess when you're trying to keep tabs on the progress of something, even if you've decided to try to take a minimal approach or like minimally invasive approach to checking in on it, which is what we've done here. So, oh, get a banana, popular item down here. But I mean, you know, I think we've done a pretty good job of not interfering with the wool sweater. I mean, the method of applying the food was also given some feedback and some recommendations on how to try feeding, Because last time what we did was, besides plopping their feeding in on top of the wool sweater, and I think we've removed a lot of stuff like, you know, perhaps a napkin, a coffee filter, all these little bits of bedding type materials that were placed on top of the sweater. I think we're still even bumping into more of it, but at this point, that right there I believe is the wool sweater. I think what we're hitting here is some coffee that's resting on top of it, so leftovers, even the shell of a chestnut. And here it seemed to me like I was already also reaching the sweater, but we haven't unearthed it or found any leftovers, so let's proceed to that over here in bin number 2 as well. Alright, fun, fun, fun. Just a few worms enjoying a banana peel. Can you blame them? Looks pretty yummy to me too. So, alright, I think what I was trying to say was that in my mixed red worm bin, I've got this feeding pattern where there's sort of 3 separate spots in which we feed. So there's the typical down the middle, but then we've been flanking the feeding area, as we did in here last time too, so as to kind of almost surround the wool sweater with little feeding zones. And I thought that I would follow that same pattern. I didn't even recognize the fact that we were sort of mimicking what was going on in the mixed red worm bin, but you know, with center feeding and 2 flanked feedings on this side, I think we can definitely adopt what we're doing in the mixed red worm bin, which is the same thing, except what we've been doing is alternating. So like last time we fed on these 2 flanks, if you want to consider it that way. So today we can feed out on this side and keep alternating back and forth as we're doing over in the mixed red worm bin. And all the while doing our best to minimize our impact on the sweater. So let's get to it, and all I'm really trying to do here is to open up enough space where I believe the edge of the sweater to be, somewhere around here, so I can slide a little bit of food in, kind of alongside and even, if possible, under the sweater. And I guess I am probably being a little bit rough, but gotta keep it real, you know. Not like I'm gonna come in here with surgical equipment. So I'm almost wondering, based on the amount of stuff that we've got for them, how do we do the middle? I guess it just sort of flows over down into those little flank sections on the sides, and then just out on the top too. So as long as we're talking about 2 sides, we've got stuff that can go out on the sides. So I still feel a little bit of the bagel that's kind of firm, but hopefully the fairly large amount of moisture that we dropped into it is going to soak through and soften up the tougher sections of it. So somehow I've managed to take care of bin number 2 even before getting to bin number 1. And now above the feeding area, I guess that's probably a good place to start coming back with all this in progress type stuff. Oh boy, popular banana peel. Very nice. And other this and that. And I guess, as we do oftentimes, we treat one of many or one of multiple as sort of the testing ground for our process, but I think what we just did there works well. So at this point we can just sort of copy and paste what we just did there and continue on with getting the other system equipped similarly. And then when we come back in here, maybe we'll move the feedings back to this side and continue with trying to keep things moving around. In a way, it almost makes me feel like I can add more food, because even if they're working on any leftovers that might still be out here from the last time. Looks like mites are helping with that process too, but even if they're still working on leftovers over there, they can, you know, get to helping out with the breakdown of stuff in a new spot. Not new, but if we keep coming back and forth to it, and that'll mean, you know, multiple weeks could pass between a certain section being revisited for resupplying food. All right, so I think we've covered up the feeding zone pretty good, but I think I'd like to blend better. So let's do that really quick. Just get some of this material down into the bed. I'm pretty sure that, yeah, here we even kind of joked about how we were going a little bit overboard on the whole concept of non-interference, because it might make sense to do that with an experimental item like the wool sweater in here. Just leave it be and let nature take its course. But on the outskirts, like these two sections that we just tilled up on the outer edges and the two outer edges that we're going to till up over here, were also deemed to be areas that we would deliberately leave untouched, just to let it be for a check-in or two. And I think it's been a couple check-ins since we tilled up the outer edges, but that's enough time. Unfortunately, we don't have a lot of time now to really explore. Oh, you know, we forgot to include this as bedding too. But you know, these systems are starting to get a little bit heavily packed with stuff. Kind of makes me even wonder if I should add the leafy matter as I had intended to. Well, you know what? My camera's blinking at me saying you're out of energy. It's time to stop, but let's see what we could do. I'll see if I can coordinate a little bit of departure greeting with you guys while we cover up to say thank you. Thank you so much for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. Hopefully I didn't forget anything trying to rush the ending. But if you did, and I sure hope you did, then please don't forget to leave me a quick thumbs up before you go. That's always really appreciated. And if you haven't done so already, please also consider subscribing to the channel. That's very much appreciated as well. All right, everyone, have a great day. Thanks for watching. Bye now.